I think we need the microphone.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Hey guys, hi guys, how are you?
Great. All right, so there's no moderator, so instead of us just coming up with our own stories, we'll go right to you guys asking us whatever you want.
Yeah. This is called a Q&A.
Yeah. We've got the A.
So we are supposed to ask questions.
All right.
Question? Anybody?
I have a question for you. It's kind of something I've always wanted to ask someone who's been in a movie as famous as The Princess Bride, but when you're filming a movie like that, when you're going through it, do you have any idea at all of how iconic and like quotable and how there's going to be like t-shirts and everything coming from it, or do you have any idea?
I don't think that there's any way to know if something's going to become such an institution over time. There's no way to really tell. You know, I've been in movies where I've gone, oh no, this is going to be one of the greatest films ever made, and it dies an unnatural death. But The Princess Bride was such a great script, such a great cast. The location was perfect. The director was wonderful. So it was hard to think that it wouldn't be. But by the way, it was not a big hit. The movie was a sort of, it just kind of lay there. And part of it was the marketing. They didn't know what to do with the movie. They didn't know if it was a love story. They didn't know if it was an adventure. They didn't know if it was a comedy. And it's all those things. Yeah, it sort of crosses genres in a way. And so it was very difficult, at least in their minds, to market. And it just became what it is because people understood it over time. Yeah.
Where did they shoot?
The locations were a place called Sheffield in the Midlands of England, in South Derbyshire, South Yorkshire, North Derbyshire, anyway, so the Midlands. And then the studio stuff was done in, just outside of London. Shepherd. A lot of the sword fighting scene. Yeah, shot on a set. The prelude to the sword fighting scene when Wesley's climbing up the mountain. A lot of the stuff that was where you saw the actual clips of Insanity, and then you saw the close-ups. The close-ups were shot in the studio. I'm sure there was other stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. We shot at Sheffield for almost 6 weeks, and in Sheffield for about 6 or 8 weeks.
Any stories about Andre the Giant and his drinking ability?
Actually, Megan Tinkin tells a great story about it. Or was it Rob Reiner? But anyway, somebody told a story about it. We did the first reading of The Princess Bride, the first read-through, the cast, first getting together. We did it at the Dorchester Hotel, or some amazing hotel in London. Very expensive, very sort of high-falutin hotel. And we finished the readings. And afterward, Andre wasn't really prepared to go home. And he was a very sort of social guy. He liked to hang out, he liked to have a couple of glasses. And he went to the bar, and he stayed there for something like 5 or 6 hours. And by then it was 1 or 2 in the morning, and he got up to leave, and he walked out into the lobby. He walked into the lobby, and he stood there for a moment, and then he went, laid out in the lobby of this extraordinarily posh hotel in London, right? Passed out.
Couldn't pick him up.
3 o'clock in the morning, and they sent a crew to pick him up. So they roped him off in the lobby, and then at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, I went, and got up and walked out.
That's great.
He had a prodigious ability to consume.
I've already read
that night. No.
Great story.
Any child's play questions?
I would like to know how you ended up doing your cameo in the remake of Fright Night. I'd love that.
My manager called me and said they're doing a remake of Fright Night. Would you be interested in being in it? They would like to have you involved in some way. They would like to send you the script, and then you tell them what you want to play. And they sent me the script, and of the conceivable characters to play. I thought that it would really be interesting to play this guy who Jerry consumes.
Right.
And sort of pass the torch.
I love it.
And so I said, I want to be that guy.
I love that. I know it's not a question, but I'm just saying, it's like, I love it.
And by the way, they were, Colin Farrell turned out to be one of the big fanboys of Fright Night ever. He said when he was in his teens, he watched it 50, 60 times.
Were you happy with
He and his
his?
sister would sit and watch it, would watch it constantly. And was very nervous about meeting him. And I knocked on the door of my trailer, and I said, come in. He walked in with a bottle of really expensive wine and a box set of the Carl Dreyer vampire as a kind of a gift, a welcoming gift, and it just couldn't have been nicer.
Did you like the remake?
I felt they did a nice job.
Original's better.
Nothing is the same.
The original is
Can we just slide over just a little bit to the left?
The original's always better.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
How much do you remember about making the movie?
I actually remember a lot. My answer to that usually is I don't remember anything else about being 6, but I remember making that.
Really?
Yeah, because it was just such a different thing to do. You know, it was such a. It's really the only time I ever got to do that, to fly out to LA and be involved in a major studio film like that. So, but I also always tell people that the things that stick out the most to me are like the behind the scenes stuff, hanging out with you, Catherine, meeting your daughters, hanging out in your trailer, hanging out with like everybody off set and read-throughs and stuff like that. I remember that really well. And then I remember a lot of the practical stuff. I'm sitting there for 40 takes trying to get the doll to move the right way. And, yeah.
It was a miserable experience.
Yeah, it was. Of course, it was all new stuff for them. It was all new, completely new technology at the time.
Yeah.
So,
No CGI, buddy.
no CGI. And yeah, I mean, which leads into the most popular question in my life, which is if I had nightmares in that film.
Yeah.
And so before anyone asks it, you know, we had to do those scenes so many times. And for the doll to move, like to put his hand on my head and his other hand up in the air, and for his mouth to move just right to the syncing of Brad's voice on playback, it was like 2.5 hours to get a shot like that. So yeah, I a lot of it stands out to me. The second one even a little bit more than the first. I was 8 in the second. But
The first time I met him, he had seen Fright Night when he was 6 years old. And I remembered me from Fright Night. I said,
Yeah.
"What?
yeah.
Where are your parents?"
My mom took me to see it. I was trying to get familiar with you and with people from the movie. I saw One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest, and I saw Fright Night, and I don't know if there's anything happened with it, but yeah, I was scared to meet you the first time. That was but I loved Fright Night as a kid, and I never really grew up to be the biggest horror fan, despite having this in my life for 20 years. But that was always one of my favorites. I still watch it.
Yeah.
First pair of boobs I ever saw on TV. I remember that. Oh, they were great. Yeah.
Alex, the story Alex was talking about the excruciating nature of working with the doll, because it was essentially, 4 or 5 guys, some of them under a floor, moving the animatronic around,
Watching on monitor. And
to make sure it was right. I mean, the scene that I remember the most of my working was in the car.
Yeah.
Because it was literally, again, the doll's hand coming into frame was the light reflecting properly off of the knife. If not, then they had to do it again. I mean, you know, it just took forever.
Yeah.
Excruciating.
You see, talking about my memories, I remember that scene shooting it. I wasn't in it at all, but I was there. And it was, for me, I was like, wow, this car's not even on the road. It's inside the stage, they're shaking it. It's like, how cool is this?
I remember I spent something like 4 or 5 hours punching buttons on the radio.
Yeah.
So that they could shoot my hand hitting the button.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is the glamour of movie making.
Yeah.
Glamour of movie making.
Just for Alex, did you have much contact with Brad Dourif while you were shooting the films, or?
Well, Brad was there in the beginning. He was only there in the beginning. He did all of his stuff first. Before we shot anything, he did all of his voice stuff. He was there for script readings. I remember hanging out with him. I met Fiona when I was very young, his daughter. And my mom has good stories of hanging out with me and him. And I have memories of it. But yeah, it was just in the very beginning. You would think kind of that they would make this doll's mouth move and then he would insert his voice later. But it actually, they did it the opposite way. He recorded all of his stuff first. So even though Brad wasn't in a scene with me, and he was only in a scene with Chris, in fact, his voice was very present the entire time. And that's so Brad's voice. And it was good that they did it that way because we really got to react to the sinister nature of his voice on set. But yeah, then the same thing with the second one. We worked together in a little bit in the beginning and did script readings together and stuff. And since then, I see him as a legend sometimes. Yeah.
So did you get to watch the movie after you were in it as a kid?
I did. Actually, I was allowed to watch every horror movie ever when I was a kid because I guess, the way that started. But I went to a premiere of it, I guess, in California. There was probably something like that. And then in New Jersey, where I grew up, my grandfather rented out Theater 1 of the Cineplex Odeon Theater that sat 700 people, and they had like a hometown premiere for me. And I was in a tuxedo. And we watched the movie together, and then I sat outside and signed autographs for everybody.
6 years old.
6 years old, yeah. Best wishes, best of luck, Alex Vincent. My dad taught me that at the time.
Was that overwhelming? Like, all of that attention at such a young age?
Probably, but I was probably also okay with that at the time. You know, I was a pretty outgoing, bright kid. So, yeah, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. You know, and like kids that I went to school with that would never normally be allowed to see a movie like this were showed up with their parents and stuff. Everyone from my town. I grew up in a town called Maywood in North Jersey. It's a 1 square mile town. And it felt like everybody I knew was all that. So, yeah, it was very, a little overwhelming, but I don't have a memory of it that way. I just have it as being a great experience.
You said the magic of movie making, like pressing a button for 90 hours. Is that any different? Like, what difference is there between that and then the voiceover in that movie? Like,
Nightmare Before Christmas, I don't know what the normal animation protocol is. I have done one other animated movie, and it was basically I just went into a studio and recorded for about 3 or 4 hours, and that was it. But for Nightmare Before Christmas, I recorded over a period of almost 2 years. But I would go to San Francisco. That's where they were doing the animation shooting, and I would record 2 or 3 scenes, and then they would animate those scenes. And then, but it would take them 3 or 4 months to animate those scenes that I just recorded. They were shooting something like 11 seconds of actual footage that was used in the movie a week. So it took over 2.5 years to shoot the movie. So I would go up every 3 or 4 months and record 3 or 4 scenes. I only worked with another actor once. I worked with Catherine O'Hara on one of the scenes. Other than that, I worked by myself the whole time.
So then, like, how do they actually like actively talking to them?
Ask them.
A lot of very tedious sync.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this the stop action animation. I mean, there were over 400 Jack heads. I've got 3.
Do you?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Jack's blackboard.
Oh.
What else do I have?
They're all for sale on eBay next week.
How big is everything? Like, how big
The
is
Jack
it?
heads are like this. That size.
Wow.
The blackboard's about this size. Everything is very, it's minute. Yeah, it's all very small. No, Jack, the real life Jack figure was about that tall. The sets were all miniature sets. And there were 4 sets going at once. That is shooting in 4 different studios, not studios, but sets, with literally a frame at a time. Shoot a frame, change a Jack head. Shoot a frame, change a Jack head, so that you would start to smile, such that actually maybe 20 or 30 frames, and that would take a couple of hours just for one. Plus, never mind, moving his hands, moving his fingers, moving all the other characters.
Wow.
It's I still have such an admiration for those great artists.
Was it any different, like going and watching the premiere of that, since you didn't like actively remember filming all of it, like in a movie that you actively filmed?
Oh yeah, because it was all a total surprise. I'd seen the storyboards, but I'd never seen the actual animation. I'm sorry, I saw Danny Elfman's scenes that had already been animated when I started. All the songs had been animated when I started. So I had an idea of what it was going to look like, but I was
So you were basically seeing the movie for the first
blown
time.
away. Yeah, just blown away. And remember, they sent me a working print of the movie in black and white, so that I could look at it, because I was going to get together with. The movie was directed by Henry Selick, but then Tim came in at the last. Tim Burton came in for the last 2 or 3 days, and he and I worked through all the scenes again. We just changed a few things here and there, things that I wasn't happy with, things that he wasn't happy with. So they sent me a work print so that I could have a better idea from in advance of what I wanted to work on. And my children at the time were very young. I think my son was 2, 3 years old, and my daughters were like 6, 7. And they were playing in the same room, and I just put it was on VHS. I put it in the VHS player, not thinking that they would be interested at all. And within 30 seconds, they were all like that, and stayed with it the whole time. And that's the reason why that's become fun. It's so, visually arresting. There's so many amazing little jokes, visual
They really
jokes
are
in
caught
it.
30
The
seconds.
script is a wonderful, it's amazing.
So how is that different with Chucky? How was Chucky done?
Chucky was animatronics. There were wires that came out from underneath the doll, operated by 6, 7 people at a time.
So you're actually kind of acting with the doll.
And yeah, the doll was moving in front of your face, so.
There was one guy operating with fingers. There
Yeah.
was one guy operating the palm of the hand. Another guy operating the elbow.
Yeah,
Another
one guy had a jaw piece on his mouth, and he would move his mouth, and extra emphasis, his lips and stuff, and the doll's mouth would move the way he moved his mouth. His name was Brock, do you remember?
Yeah.
He passed away about a couple weeks ago. Yeah. But yeah, that was between Brad's voice. I mean, you couldn't really lose yourself because you're doing it over and over again, and we can see the wires. All we have to do is look down. But the doll was very present. There was very I found it, despite not being scared and knowing everything that was fake, I still found it kind of easy to act off of it, because it basically looked real in front of you.
But then you were also not only working with the animatronic doll, but also little people.
Yep.
And then they also used children on oversized sets.
Yeah. Well, the one
For a certain, mostly walking through scenes.
The scene where Aunt Maggie is sitting there reading the book and Chucky runs across the hallway real fast, that was actually my little sister Ashley, who was 3 at the time. They had built this oversized set, they tried with Ed Gale and it didn't work, and they tried something else against that, didn't work. And Tom Holland, being as creative as he was, saw my sister, he was like, we can put a wig on her. This could work. So they put a wig on her, and she ran across the hallway. So actually the first time you ever see Chucky in motion was my little sister. She's taking advantage of it too, because she's starting a band called First Chucky. Some people got it.
Would you describe the environment on set as being very sheltering towards you?
Speak up.
Would you describe the environment on set as being very sheltering towards you, being as young as you were? Like, were people coming up to you and saying, this is just make-believe, this is just...
Not really. I wasn't babied too much when making that movie. If you knew Tom Holland's, way of handling things, he didn't baby me at all. My mother really has good memories of that because she appreciated the fact that he talked to me like any other one of his actors. I mean, I was obviously a kid, so it was still some of that, but like in the second one, John McKee, he was very treated me like a kid, which is okay too, but Tom really didn't. He expected a lot out of me. He was confident that I could do it, and he would go off on these cursing tirades sometimes where I had to get picked up and taken out of the room. But he didn't care that I was there for that.
Also, you have to remember that in movies, children have to work under very strict child labor
Yeah.
laws. So, he wasn't
My
allowed
days
to
were
work
limited.
regularly. Yeah.
My days were limited.
Had to go to school.
I had to go to school. For me, I got to leave real school to go to California to do 3 hours of tutoring a day, so that was fine.
Yes.
So what was it like working on Fright Night?
In what way?
Oh, whatever comes to mind. Memories, fun memories,
Oh, yeah.
funny stories.
It's a great fun set to work on, other than the really sort of long, excruciating makeup scenes and the really bad contact lenses. The movie itself was fun because the cast was great. And we were working on a set with one of the historical figures of Hollywood, Robbie McDowell.
Yeah.
Stories. John Stark, who was a former improvisational comedian, and who later became a very successful television writer. And Billy Ragsdale, who underneath that sweet, boyish face is one of the funniest human beings alive. And the Manverse we had a great time. It was a lot of fun. Again, Tom had to bear all of the difficulties from the studio and hurry up, and he was under constant pressure. But he also knew exactly what he wanted in every scene, every frame. He knew exactly what every frame was. It was the same with Child's Play.
He was under a ton of pressure with Child's Play too, because there was a little bit of a power control thing going on, because there were technically 3 writers of the first film. Don did a version, David Kirshner punched it up, Tom made his changes, and everybody kind of had their own part of the whole thing. And the studio even making a movie like that, and it was, I know it was under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, because when you think about it, both Fright Night and Child's Play were genre-busting movies in a way. Child's Play because there's never really been a movie made like that before. With that much technical expertise required, not CGI, all done literally on the set. And Fright Night was a big risk because basically the vampire genre had died. At that point in the vampire genre, there were movies being made that were parodies because it had kind of run out of gas. And Fright Night really was a return to the kind of classic view of the vampire genre with a modern twist, with humor, and with Tom's writing, which is, he writes in a very sort of, his writing arc is almost perfect in the sense that the you know, the sort of classic screenwriting school, the guys who write the books about how to write a screenplay, look at Tom Holland's screenplays if you want to know how to write a screenplay. Because they are beautifully structured. And also because he is a visual director, he sees the movie while he's writing. The first time I met him, I flew out to California to meet with him and Herb Jaffe, the producer. And Tom sat down and literally described the movie frame by frame by frame. He said, okay, this shot, this, we're in a close-up of here, and then this happens, and then this happens. And he knew exactly, the movie was in his head, as well as on the page. Because when you read the script, you said, this is a great script. This is a brilliant script. You know, when I first read it, I thought, before I read it, they sent it to me, and the movie was called Fright Night, and it's a vampire movie. I said, oh, no, I'm a classical actor. I know this, and I have an Academy Award nomination. And I read the script, and I thought, this is an amazing script. This is a great, great film script.
Do you find yourself being extra critical of vampire stories and movies, things that they turn into?
You know, I don't watch much.
No. Like the Anne Rice stories, you know,
I really like the Anne Rice books.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I've read most of them.
Yeah. I thought the Anne Rice books were
the
great.
films, the first one, in particular, Interview was really good.
Yeah, I thought so.
And then the show True Blood, obviously, the first season was good, and then it got kind of weird.
I never watched
It was an interesting take on it. It was totally different, but it's
You
just
guys
like
excuse us.
But it's just interesting to me because they reinvent the vampire story so many times, and Fright Night was such a particular version of that.
Yeah.
And it really stuck true to the guidelines of being a vampire. You know?
Yes, right. It was true to the vampire protocols from past great classic movies.
Yeah.
But there were little twists.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have faith for that.
Right.
That's
Right.
really and that's all Tom. Yeah.
How does it make you feel being considered one of the sexiest vampires?
I have a crush.
How did you prepare for that role? Were you going to be a Bela Lugosi vampire, or?
No, that was again Tom's take on it was let's make this guy a thoroughly modern, sexy, very voluptuous. The clothes, you know, we went to Fred Siegel, which is this big, very upscale clothing store in LA, and me and Tom and the costume person, and we picked each piece of clothing that Jerry wore, very specific, the color palette, everything, you know, and that's all. A lot of that is Tom. A lot of that is Tom Holland. Him saying, you know, you got to go for. Don't be afraid to be sexy. Don't be afraid to make this guy a hot.
But you didn't twinkle. You know, all of a sudden you didn't twinkle, and we didn't see you in the mirrors, and you followed all the rules.
Yeah, most of it.
As opposed to the Twilight vampire.
Yeah. You're falling in love and just for a drink of blood.
No, Jerry doesn't fall in love. Except for that was something actually that Tom let me kind of go with, which was, I said, wouldn't it be interesting if Amanda's character in the movie, that he had some history with her, that she reminded